So I mean, a lot of like being colonized is being fragmented, right? And also the colonizer doesn't want us to know ourselves, and they've taken over our stories. And so we get stories from oral traditions, we get fragmented stories, we get very weird, very, very weird fantasies about us, and we get just like fragments. Like my family is involved in, I know very little of my Lucenio family, right? My mother used to go to the reservation to visit family there. But the California side, they're Mexicans, right? But like there's a Spanish fantasy about them. They're like bits and pieces of them all around Southern California. I mean, the name Verdugo is like that side of the family. There's everywhere. But you see, like they were also involved in something called the Great Partition, where he lost his land. Obviously, like he was awarded and taken from other folks. But like that's part of history, and you just don't know it, right? Because really, we got a culture of survival, and not really of like recording,
Yeah.
And our elders don't tell our stories because they don't want you they want you to carry the trauma, and so you have to find out for yourself. I mean, one Lucenio people that the band is called the Tongva, right? A lot of them, like when the U.S. came, they were enslaving Native folks in Southern California, hunting them in Northern California, and displacing people, and Californios as well. And so they were Mexicanized, but they went full Mexican because you could get hunted as an Indian, you couldn't own land as an Indian, you couldn't testify against a white person as an Indian. And Mexicans couldn't really either, but there was like there's more leeway for us, right? So a lot of Tongva later find out that they're actually Tongva. They thought they were Mexican, which it's a confusing, which another colonial overlap, right? So fragmentation is the name of the game, really. Like
right.
we don't have we don't control our own stories, and so you have to grab at them. So that's why I have a bunch of little vignettes, because also the memory of trauma it happens like that. You remember things in a fragmented way, and you kind of relive them a lot. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, that's kind of why I went into that. And also, it's a Chicano form. There's a book called Drink Cultura by some guy. I can't remember his name, but it's a great book, and it's in a bunch of vignettes. And there's also, I think Sonia Gutierrez did Jamie and Mariposas. That's that has vignettes as well. I mean, it's just something that we often do.
Mm-hmm. All right. I believe my next question is something somewhat similar. How did you decide on the balance between the real and the fantasy elements in the narrative?
This reminds me, like, to me, it's kind of all the same, right? Because to me, the fantasy elements is me processing it, right? And even the memory, the more straight, realistic ones, that's me processing it, right? Because you're always recreating. There's no reality, right? We're always, it's all fiction. We're all recreating what we think is real, and that's an idea. And so that's what I mean. You talk to a lot of people who who you think you are. That's a fiction, right? It's something always recreated. It reminds me of growing up in near San Diego. People like, and also like every day of my life, like like in my very very early 50s. But every day someone will ask me, like, if one week they ask what tribe am I with, the next week they'll say I look white, and what I say I'm brown. The week after that, they'll say like, you look Mexican, why do you claim anything else, right? And how can I be all these things, right? But it's also, that's there's a quote in my book, that's the story of the Americas is the conflict of the Mesoamerican with Indo-European. And that's what we hold in our bodies, and I think for a lot of folks. My body's a conflict,
All right, next question. How do you see the legacy of colonization still playing out in modern California?
Every motherfucking day I've ever lived, it's been like, I'm not safe. Somebody, though, I'm mixed race, right? Mm-hmm. Technically, right? But like someone like me has been walking around this area, right? At least in Southern California. I get followed in stores. I get like congratulated on how I speak.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I get like people demand, they get belligerently demand when I came from Mexico to here, right? When the people who come from the other side of the ocean have mixed up who's native and who isn't, right? They 100% crossed us, right? And I'm from here, and so if I'm not, this is a colonial occupation. And there's people don't like to hear that, but it's 100% true, right? Mm-hmm. They tell us lies from the day we're born. It says I'm white on my birth certificate. It's kind of a joke, yeah.
That's crazy.
But that goes in with the Spanish priest. At some point, they didn't want to label limit a child's life by putting down that they're these are racist colonial terms. Mestizo, I don't like using that because that's a racist colonial term. Because it's like different coyote, what the New Mexican family calls me because I'm half Anglo. But it means something different, like black and Indian back in the day. But so they have all these terms, so they start saying like gente de razón and gente sin razón to mean like whether you're part of the Spanish colony or you're part of or Mexican colony versus the tribally affiliated, right? And so to me that's the same kind of thing, Right. Also my name confuses the hell out of people too.
Oh yeah, that's in your book.
Yeah. I've got but yeah. So colonization's all around.
Okay, so looking forward, do you see Old California Strikes Back as part of a larger body of work or mission?
Like I mentioned, I'm a very small handful to tell our own tale. People throw mostly Anglo Americans have thrown a weird fantasy on us and used it as like to wag the dog. I am related to monsters, right? I'm colonized. I'm descended from Juan de Oñate. I'm even related to Cortez, and also the lesser guy Verdugo out here. He didn't do he put down a revolt, but he didn't kill anybody. So, but the U.S. showed up here and started a genocide. So it was bad. There's no defending what the Spanish and Mexicans afterwards did. The Mexicans don't like to hear it. They were colonizers as well. They wanted Mexicans. They wanted Mexican citizens. All these people. It's the same story across. This is the last colony of Mexico, like California, right? Mm-hmm. The rest is the same story, but it happened more recently here. But the Anglos, the Americans, they showed up, they stole, they killed, they committed genocide. It was 10 times worse, Mm-hmm. And a lot of Native groups would say it's all the same, but I've yet to see a Spaniard, a real one. There are a lot of people who want to live a fantasy, because one thing you hear, people hate the old families a lot of times, because if they're coming to take away stuff from you, and the treaty says you're supposed to be treated as a regular citizen, quote unquote white folks, they'll say, well, I'm not Indian at all. The Californians in particular were mostly Native, African, and European, and so they would say they were Spanish, but they're not. And so particularly these genealogy societies, you see people crying, how am I 80% Native? It's not possible. I'm only a little bit Hopi. What is it? Hopi, Apache, Pueblo, Zuni, Tlaxcala. It's a big joke, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's people don't want to be a racial slur. So people change who they are.
Mm-hmm. So what's next for you? More fiction, essays, or something else entirely?
So I'm also an editor. Got a book called Chicanx Futurism coming out. I'm calling it a codex. It's like art and fiction and nonfiction about the future for Chicanx people. I'm also working on a short story collection called Plurality, kind of speculative stories. I'm kind of looking at Carmen Machado did a book called Her Body and Other Parties, and I really liked. She did a very experimental work around some speculative stories, and you got to trick people to read experimental work. Right? So that's my trick. But also, I'm going to write about Toy Perina. She's Lucenio Soboba, and my great-grandfather, Lucenio, she was Lucenio Tongba. My great-grandfather is a part of larger Lucenos. But I'm also descended from the guy who put down her revolt, the Verdugo guy, right? So she's become more of a figure for a lot of Chicanos, and also the Tonga folks in Southern California. And so I have half a novella written about her, and I want to write about her. And also I would like my new press, which should be launching later this year, called Maíz Poppin' Press. I want to put out an anthology about Toypurina, so to have this internal dialogue with other Native people, like, you know, detribalized and tribally affiliated, to talk about like all these monsters related to these figures that should be, you know, like more like Toypurina. Literally, like, she was forced to divorce her Native husband and marry a Spanish mission guard and moved to Northern California. So she literally became like her children, whoever they are, they're around, right? But they're Mexican, you know, they're raised Mexican. So they're literally our past, and we need to start healing some of these divides that are amongst us. You know, so I thought that could be a small way.
Cool. Okay, I'm looking forward to that. And one last one to close this all out. What would you say to readers who see themselves in your struggle for cultural and ancestral reconnection?
It's tough. Good luck.
Yeah.
I started this book really kind of thinking, yeah, like, I'm tired of people coming up to me telling me what I am, demanding, like, when I came to this country, when it's the other way around, demanding to know what my background is. I started out with some answers, and I would just say, be careful and don't be so hard on yourself, right? Because I wasn't prepared for what I got myself into. Because I'm a short story writer. I don't want to write no novel. You know? So yeah, just realize that we're all human beings, and you gotta, like, you don't let anybody off the hook. There are a lot of people, you know, all this stuff they say, like, oh, the man of the times and all this kind of stuff. Nah, you know, everybody knows you shouldn't chop people up. You know, everybody knows you shouldn't chain people up. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, or you shouldn't like, oh my God, all the stuff I learned about California, you would not believe.
No, that's
priests singing so people don't hear what they were doing to children.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, be careful. Yeah.
So that's your message?
Be careful.
You gotta be careful out there, kids.
Right, yeah.
All right.
See you in El Salvador.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.